So it is no secret that I enjoy video games. If I didn't, I wouldn't make videos about them. And although gaming has always been my biggest passion in life, not far behind that is my love of film and movies. And one film franchise I have loved longer than most is the Indiana Jones movies. My first real interaction with the franchise was through the original Indiana Jones Lego game, which takes Skywalker Saga out of the equation. Lego Indy is my favorite Lego game ever, to this day. But what that simple game did is give me a budding interest into the world of Indiana Jones. Enough so to where I took my parents' VHS tapes of the original three movies and watched all three of them. And even though the two most recent Indy movies have definitely let me down, let's be honest here, my love for the character has not wavered. However, when I first saw the reveal for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, my expectations were quite low. I thought the whole first and third person thing would get real annoying, and the general gameplay seemed very basic and boring. But I figured I'd play it anyway, given that I am a PC Game Pass subscriber, and it being a highly anticipated game from Microsoft. Kind of a rarity nowadays. However, once the game came out, I was seeing all kinds of reviews praising this game as something special and potentially an all-time great. Now, after hearing that, I had to play it. So that's exactly what I did. Let's get into it. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was developed by Machine Games, published by Bethesda Softworks, and was released on December 9th, 2024 for Windows PCs and Xbox Series consoles. However, the game is also slated to have a PS5 release sometime in the first half of 2025. I played the game on PC through PC Game Pass, so all footage you are seeing was recorded on that machine using OBS. I also played a good amount of this on my Lenovo Legion Go, which admittedly was not an ideal experience, which I do want to take a bit of time to discuss the performance and mainly the PC system requirements. The minimum PC specs for this game, according to Steam, are a 10th gen i7 or a Ryzen 5 3600 processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and an RTX 2060 Super, Radeon RX 6600, or Intel Arc 580 for all those early adopters out there, the Intel Arc cards. And the recommended specs are the 12th gen i7 or Ryzen 7 7700, say that 3 times fast, 32 gigs of RAM, and an RTX 3080 Ti or Radeon RX 7700 XT. I have not been a PC gamer for very long, only like the past few years or so, but according to the specs, this is by far and away the most demanding game I've ever seen, so I was pretty worried about the Legion Go situation. My desktop PC has a Ryzen 9 5900X, 32 gigs of DDR4 memory, and a Radeon RX 6750 XT GPU. With my PC, I played it at 1080p high settings and usually got somewhere between 60 and 90 frames per second. So in other words, 100% playable without question. However, on my Lenovo, I played at 720p, the lowest resolution the game would allow, and every other setting on the lowest it could go, and I averaged between like 20 to 30 frames. It was most definitely janky on the Lenovo, but would I call it playable? For the most part. There was one spot in the game in particular where it was topping out at like 15 frames per second, and I just couldn't do it there. I saved that part for when I was on the big boy, the big old desktop PC boy. So I would call this game playable on the Lenovo Legion Go for the most part, but very, very far from ideal. So do with that information as you wish. In Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, you play as the titular character himself, with the game starting at the opening scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and you play through the entire sequence. But it was revealed that this was a dream as Indy fell asleep at his desk at Marshall University. He was awoken by the sound of someone breaking into the college who stole one of Indy's finds, a statue of a mummified cat. In an effort to get the cat back, Indy learns there is much more to the cat than meets the eye. The only issue is the lead Nazi archaeologist, Emmerich Voss, does as well. So a race begins as who can solve the mystery of the Great Circle first, Indy or the Nazis. So one of my initial worries with this game before playing it was just what kind of game it would be. Machine Games talked about stealth elements of it, but the trailer showed off more combat and puzzle solving than anything from what I've seen. But upon playing it, I can say with confidence that I would call this game a stealth game through and through, with combat and puzzles playing secondary roles in my opinion. And per my Dishonored videos, links in the description for those, I am not good at stealth games, so keep that in mind for this review. I want to start with not only what stuck out to me the most, but also what I liked the most. And that is that I feel Machine Games really nailed the character of Indiana Jones, both in personality, but also in gameplay and behavior. First and foremost, Indy is an archaeological genius. He knows almost everything about everything. He rattles off historic fact after historic fact and knows a bazillion languages that he often puts to use, considering many ancient relics didn't really involve English, believe it or not. He is very often the smartest person in the room, but I think where they really nailed it was in terms of the stealth and combat. Indy is honestly just a guy. He's not a soldier, he's not like a martial artist or anything. And because of this, he often has to get resourceful when he is greeted by opposition. I think the best way to show this resourcefulness is through the sheer variety of melee weapons. Odds are, if you can see it, you can use it. Even things that make virtually no sense to use as a weapon, like a fly swatter, a plunger, or a little wireframe-esque dustpan, just to name a few. Obviously, these weapons are probably more for comedic use and included just because Machine Games was having a little bit of fun. But let's not forget, Indiana Jones films have very comedic moments and are most definitely meant to be funny at times, usually partaking in slapstick style humor. And because of that, I can very easily see Indy, in a panic, just grab what is ever close to him, no matter what it is, and trying to take out a Nazi with it. But whether you are using a melee weapon or your fists, the feedback of hitting people is so great. When using weapons, it feels like you are really just whacking the shit out of them with the sounds that are made and the way the enemies react to being hit. But the feedback really shines when using your fists. Punching people, albeit doesn't do as much damage, but it really delivers a good thwump on contact, and there's a kind of visible shockwave that appears too, which really adds to the impact of punches, and also falls right in line with how exaggerated fistfights can be in the movies. I think first-person melee combat is very hard to pull off, but I honestly think the Great Circle is the best of it I have experienced. But if you get discovered while sneaking around, you better hope that the fascist that discovered you doesn't tell his friends, because you likely won't make it out alive, since it is very easy to get overwhelmed with enemies in this game. But that is a good thing. At the end of the day, Indiana Jones, let's be honest, he is a nerd. He is not a trained soldier. He is not a trained fighter. He is a college professor of archaeology. He shouldn't be able to take on hordes of enemies and come out on top. In my experience, if one guy sees me, I have like a solid 60% chance of taking him down. If two guys chase me down, I probably have like maybe 20% chance, and 3 or more dudes, I'm pretty much done for. But again, I mean this in a complimentary way. Odds are a professor of archaeology wouldn't be able to take out a lot of Nazi soldiers solo. He'd likely get his ass kicked, which I did plenty of times, but in this instance, I was glad to have it happen. However, if you have a lot of guys coming after you, you can always try and shoot it out, but this may not be the best path you want to take. Although Indy is known for having a revolver on his side and firing some rounds off every now and then, which remains true in the Great Circle, the game definitely makes it clear this is a last resort type of thing, which is exactly how it is in the movies. Indy typically relies on brawling and melee combat rather than shooting, and I believe the game has the same attitude as this towards shooting for several reasons. First off, just using a firearm is kinda clunky and imprecise. Although you can, in air quotes here, aim down sights, it's more of just a more precise, slightly zoomed in hip fire. Secondly, reloading is virtually non-existent. If you pick up an enemy's firearm, you cannot pick up any additional ammo for it. So once you use all the ammo in the current mag, that's it. You won't be shooting that gun again. The only gun I came across that I could reload is Indy's revolver, but even that is very slow to reload, and the ammo to do so is very few and far between. Lastly, you can effectively use guns without ever firing a shot from them, as every gun, even Indy's revolver, can be used as a melee weapon. I really love this because it just really makes you think twice about shooting someone, especially since, depending on where you are, enemies typically won't shoot at you unless you shoot first. So it is a give and take. Sure, you could shoot people and take them out quicker, but then the enemies will start shooting too, and you will likely die a lot faster as well. So all that being said, I believe Machine Games really understand what it's like to be Indiana Jones, and that really shows in this game. Given Machine Games' prior games and track record, it would have been very easy for them to turn this into a fast-paced, full-blown first-person shooter. But they really did a good job of doing something different, and I think they really showed some good diversity in terms of games they are capable of making. As much as the feel of Indy is nailed by the gameplay and stuff, it is quite astoundingly mirrored by a similar quality and voice performance on the part of Troy Baker as Indiana Jones. Just take a listen here.
That's Emmerich Voss, German archaeologist, leader of the Fears Occult research program.
And you know that how?
The Lord revealeth his secret unto his servants.
Is that so? Dr. Indiana Jones, Professor Archaeology Department,
Hey.
Marshall College, Bedford, Connecticut.
Yeah? You ain't no nun, sweetheart.
I mean, come on. This is so spot on, it's crazy. If I closed my eyes and you played some of Harrison Ford speaking and then some of Troy Baker speaking, I genuinely don't think I could tell the difference. But this shouldn't be super surprising given Troy's honestly endless body of work across all kinds of mediums. In particular though, some of his video game characters that I have gotten to know are Pagan Min from Far Cry 4, which, side note, is a series known for its memorable villains, Alec Mason and Red Faction Guerrilla. Rest in peace, Volition Games. I'd pretty much eat my left leg for a Red Faction Guerrilla open world destruction sequel. That Armageddon one wasn't nearly as good. Troy Baker also voices the male protagonist choice in Saints Row the Third, Booker DeWitt in Bioshock Infinite, one of my all-time favorite games, and potentially his most notable role is Joel Miller from The Last of Us. But I cannot stress to you enough that I am not even scratching the surface of this guy's resume. So it really isn't all that surprising that Troy absolutely knocked it out of the park here. The only character that can rival Indy is Emmerich Voss, the main antagonist of the game. Voss is voiced by Marios Gavrilis, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, who primarily has done German dubbing work, but utilizes German, English, and I believe a splash of Italian as Voss, but I could be wrong about the Italian. I think Voss is a great villain for Indy. He speaks with such conviction and passion, as if he genuinely believes it is his destiny to solve the mystery of the Great Circle and do what he can to help his leader, Adolf Hitler. Between Indy and Voss, really solid voice acting in this game. Really, the only major complaint I have with this game is the enemy AI is usually painfully stupid. I understand that in stealth games especially, enemies are going to be very dumb compared to how they would act, or more importantly, react in certain situations. Obviously, if they reacted realistically, stealth as a genre would potentially be dead in the water because it would just be so difficult. So enemies have to be a little extra dumb in order for the game to be playable for most people. But in Indy, they took it a little too far. I frequently was able to practically walk right in front of enemies from mere feet away, and they wouldn't suspect a thing. I pretty much had to beat a guy's ass right in front of another guy for him to be like, something isn't right here. I can't tell you how many times I thought I was done for and was about to get caught sneaking, just for the enemies to have absolutely no clue that I was there. So I would have liked to see a little more intelligent enemy AI. Lastly, let's do the extra tidbits here I have about this game that don't need to spend a lot of time on. You can't have Indy without his whip, and I like how when you use the whip in open air, it obviously cracks, but if it hits an obstacle, it doesn't crack. Just a small thing I like. I also like how the maps you use in this game are physical maps that Indy actually pulls out, like Far Cry 2 for instance. Helps keep you in the immersion of the time period. You obviously got to do a lot of climbing in this game, but when you do, you sometimes don't get to keep whatever weapon you are carrying at the time. Indy will drop whatever weapon he's using at the start of the climb, even if it is just a small one-handed weapon and you climb something as easy as a ladder, he will still drop it. And lastly, you get several healing items in this game, and when playing this game on controller like I did, you cycle through them using down on the D-pad. However, if you go too fast, Indy can't keep up with this, and I often used fruit when I wanted to use bandages or grains or something, and put those in any order you want. When that happened, I had to slowly cycle to what I needed so Indy could actually use what I needed. And that's all the tidbits we got there. When this game was first revealed, it seems the general consensus was that it would be fine and nothing more. I felt the same way. However, upon release, many people were proven wrong and had their expectations shattered by how good this game actually was. Once again, I feel the same way. This game fully surpassed my expectations, and I have no issue admitting I was wrong about my predictions. Although it came out in 2024, it came out too late to be considered for the 2024 Game Awards. But because of that, when the 2025 Game Awards roll around, I fully expect it to not only be nominated for several awards, but also win at least some of those nominations, particularly performance by Troy Baker. It's gonna take a crazy performance to dethrone that, in my opinion. And I think that is a huge deal for this game to have potentially get so many nominations and awards. Although this game is slated to be released on PS5, I still fully consider this an Xbox game, as Machine Games is owned by Bethesda, who is owned by Microsoft. And this matters, because Sony and PlayStation has ruled supreme for a while in terms of first-party games, when it's Sony versus Microsoft. Nintendo, they do their own thing. So for Microsoft to kind of kick off what is looking like to be a stacked 2025 with a game of this quality, Microsoft and Xbox is looking to have an all-time Hall of Fame year in terms of first-party games. But only time will tell if they can carry this momentum, which Xbox is famous for not carrying momentum well. When I was watching videos about this game when it first released, one creator whose opinion I really value is Jacob Aldino, and he was equally impressed with this game. But I think he made a good point when he said that indie movies probably should stop getting made, and the best way to carry on the legacy of Indiana Jones is through video games. And after experiencing firsthand the quality difference between the low quality of the Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny movies when compared to the high quality of Indiana Jones and The Great Circle, I have no choice but to 100% agree with him.
Verdammt! Mann am Boden!
I was beyond glad to see this game be as good as it is, because very few things hit quite like an indie adventure. But hey, thank you so much for your time and attention watching this video. It means the world to me. If you like this video, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. It goes a long way for us here at Milkman Media. Next, I normally would wrap up the Dishonored series with Death of the Outsider, but a short little game called Naiad was released recently, and I want to check it out. It seems like one of those short vibes-based games like Jasant, link in description for that one as well, that I kind of have a soft spot for. So I want to check it out. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss those videos or any other gaming, food, or whatever other category video I would want to make. Lastly, let's talk indie in the comments. The movies, the games, anything you want to say about indie, I want to know. So let's talk down in the comments. Or if you got anything else on your mind, let me know as well. That's all I got for today. Once again, thank you so much for watching. And as always, I will see you in the next one.
Let's go. I know I'm moving through life like it's a runway. I'ma live life in style and paint this life like a masterpiece. There's no bringing us down. And we don't know what tomorrow holds, so we gon' live right now. All we know when we pull up, got 'em saying this.